Hey guys, it's Mike here, and there's some big news that's coming out now about the upcoming Dragon Ball movie that is going to be coming out this year, December 14th in Japan. Now, this film was originally announced during Jump Festa 2018, and at that point it seemed like what they were going to be doing was a film detailing the origin of Saiyan power, or Goku and other Saiyan power. However, there has now been some big news drop that has been revealed as to what is actually going to be taking place during the film itself. So in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at that. Now let's first start off by looking at the key visual that was released, which can be found on the website DB Movie 20th, which is down below in the description. And as we can see, the key visual is a picture of Goku, who is wearing his more iconic clothing, and he is also interestingly holding his power pole, which is something that Goku used as a weapon and mostly saw use in Dragon Ball. However, interestingly, it was used to get from Korin's Tower to Kami's Lookout, or the Heavenly Realm as it's known, although it did make some appearances in early Z, particularly the movies such as World's Strongest. So it's interesting seeing Goku in this particular outfit as well as holding the power pole. However, I feel this is in order to give us the more iconic look of Goku, and really this picture of Goku itself isn't probably going to factor into the upcoming movie that much. It's likely going to just be something that is used to promote it, saying, hey, Goku and his adventures are still going to continue, guys. So just make sure to watch this movie and find out exactly what it is. And that also leads directly into the comments from Akira Toriyama himself about this upcoming film. And what that says, and you can read this as well, is the Dragon Ball Super movie this time around will be the next story that takes place after the anime that's currently on TV. The content will shed a little light on previously unexplored topics having to do with Frieza and the Saiyans. And I think it will be a very enjoyable story that serves up a long-awaited formidable opponent. With 2013's Battle of Gods, the previous installment Resurrection F, and now this time too, I've been the one writing the stories. I've also been drawing quite a few things for them, like design illustrations. I'm actually as busy as ever, and if I wasn't serializing anything, I'd have time to think about the anime, which I used to not have enough time to be involved. Laughs, as Toriyama usually does. So on that note, I very much hope you look forward to it. By the way, I think the highly popular Dragon Ball Super manga, drawn by Toyo Taro, is going to see some developments different from the TV anime or movies. So please look forward to that, and be sure to check it out too. And of course, these are the words of Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, who seems to be directly working on this film just like he did on the previous two films that were in production before Dragon Ball Super. So that's definitely something interesting to look forward to, because I feel like that spin that Toriyama put on Battle of Gods and then what he put into Resurrection F were really some of the best parts of it, because you can really tell when Toriyama is not involved in some of these projects, such as the Dragon Ball Z films. So seeing his involvement and how he's actually designing things for it is definitely something that continues to give it that more, I guess you could say, canon appeal to Dragon Ball fans. However, what I find very interesting is that this film will take place after Dragon Ball Super. It's not going to be a film like we thought that's going to be a prequel or something that's going to be like a side story, kind of like, you know, how Star Wars is doing with the Star Wars stories that only like loosely connects into the original trilogy, or in this case, the Dragon Ball manga and Super. So that's certainly interesting, and the idea that it's going to be further explaining the relationship between Frieza, the history of the Saiyans, is also something I find particularly interesting. Although, you know, on one hand, I can definitely hear arguments for people being like, another movie about the Saiyans, another movie with Frieza, I mean, this guy's back again, you know, or this guy is gonna stick around. So I can definitely see how some people might not like that idea. However, as I've said in many videos before this, I'm definitely on board with the idea of Dragon Ball continuing the story and the main story as films. Although inversely, I do like the idea of Dragon Ball taking a break from the main story and perhaps delving into like the lore and the mythology of this rich multiverse that Akira Toriyama has created and continued to craft for decades. But just because we're getting a film now continuing this story, it does not necessarily mean that we're not going to be getting those things perhaps as different manga, perhaps as spin-off side story like mini-series, and even other films perhaps either made for TV or that will air in the cinema. And it's also possible that Goku and Frieza will basically just serve as the framework for telling this sort of story. For example, Goku and Frieza like sitting around, and then Goku is like, hey, you ruled over planet Vegeta for a long time. You must have learned a lot about the history of the Saiyans. And then they start to have like a little story where we have flashbacks the entire film. Although honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the whole let's tell a story and the whole thing is just a story being told as opposed to actually being told, you know, completely from beginning to end within that context and within that time period. But, you know, it's Dragon Ball. And as you see in the picture, Goku is the most iconic character of it. You know, it began with him and his story. So I guess that if they're going to try and find a way to work him into the story somehow, you know, I'd rather it be that way instead of, you know, him going back in time or something crazy like that. But this other part about a long-awaited formidable opponent is certainly interesting because it makes me wonder who it is. You know, is it perhaps going to be someone resurrected, kind of like we thought in perhaps the original Battle of Gods and then the Resurrection F film, that an ancient Saiyan or Super Saiyan god would be resurrected? You know, will Yamoshi be resurrected and then want to fight Frieza and the Saiyans or something crazy like that? You know, there's a lot of different possibilities. You know, some people are even speculating now that they might try and incorporate Heroes or Xenoverse or something into it and have Mira and Toa show up and maybe incorporate the video games in that way. There's a lot of different ways I feel like they could go with this story, so that's certainly very interesting. And again, like I've said, I really like the idea behind continuing the story as films because it gives them time to make these films, to get everything right, to have a bigger budget, you know, devoted to this particular story being told, and it could produce even greater quality content than what we see in Dragon Ball Super right now. So that's definitely an aspect of this I'm really on board with. However, we're gonna have to wait for that first trailer, or maybe even the second, because if you guys remember with Resurrection F, we heard about the worst wish ever, and we were all wondering what it could be, and then finally when like the other poster came out with Frieza and then other materials, that's when we discovered it. And another question is when this film will actually take place. Like, is Super finally going to be done with the 10-year time skip at the end of the series? Or after the Tournament of Power ends, is it going to end with some sort of cliffhanger? Or is it going to end in a way that the movie is going to pick up like immediately after it? Because honestly, I'm tired of the 10-year time skip. It was #1 on the things I won't miss when Dragon Ball Super end that you can check out on my channel and in the end screen of this video. And it's really something that I hope that Dragon Ball gets away from because I want to see the future. I want to see what it moves towards, you know? I want to see what GT is being replaced with, more or less, because Dragon Ball Super takes place before GT. It takes place before even Oob shows up for the first time in Z, so they've spent the entire series contradicting GT. We're finally going to move forward. We're going to do something different. So let's actually see that, because we waited an entire series for Dragon Ball Super. We didn't see that time skip end. Even the episodes out right now are still in that time skip, so I really hope that that's going to go past it. You know, I hope it's not going to be like the very next day Goku and Frieza are hanging out or something like that, and then that's where the story is being told, you know, because I'm tired of these super condensed time frames. I'm tired of this 10-year time skip. Let's move on. But for me, another really interesting thing is what it says at the end of the comments from Akira Toriyama, where he talks about how the Dragon Ball Super manga, as drawn by Toyotaro, is going to see some developments that are different from the TV, anime, or movies. So one thing I'm wondering is, A, is this going to mean that they're going to continue the story that is being told in the film in manga form? You know, that's going to continue directly after this arc is done in the anime and the manga, and that we'll actually see some of this movie play out in manga form before the movie comes out in theaters? Or is Toyotaro going to be telling like a different story than is even going to be told in this anime? Like, is Toyotaro going to completely take that idea of the manga being something different? Because as we've seen, it's really diverged since the beginning of of having the same storyline and continuity that Dragon Ball Super, the anime, does. So is Toyotaro gonna like do his own thing, you know? Are they gonna have it just be a separate story and it's gonna have similar elements, but Toyotaro is gonna be like telling a different story from what we're gonna see in the anime? That does seem a little wild, it does seem a little different, but at the same time, it's like, you know, he's already done so much different than the anime does. They clearly don't have that same mindset and that same story in mind. So if that's going to be the case, it would be interesting to see Toyotaro drawing something different from the main story and perhaps somebody else taking over if they ever decide to do any more manga for the main story. But Toyotaro telling the main story itself and us getting to see like that main story play out in manga form before the anime would be pretty cool as well. So I am definitely looking forward to that. I kind of just want this arc in the manga to already just get out of the way so we can finally get to that, because I've already seen the anime version, and unless the manga version is going to be like a quicker, more streamlined, and perhaps even better version of the Tournament of Power that we've seen in the anime, which has gone on and on and on, then I kind of just want to get to the next story already. But overall, this has been some pretty big news, something I definitely didn't expect to happen today, and it's definitely taking in a direction that, even though it's different than what it seemed like it was going to be at first, this overall idea they're discussing of what the film will be is something that I feel like could end up being really good in the end. But we're gonna have to wait for that first trailer or second or whatever promotional material comes out before we really get a full idea of what this film is going to entail. As far as when I'll get to see it, or many other audiences around the world will get to see it, I'm not entirely sure yet. The December 14th date is going to be for Japan, but I'm not too sure when the English dub is going to do it, or the Spanish dub, or other dubs around the world. Of course, I wouldn't have a problem seeing the film in Japanese with English subtitles, but it would be cool to see the film in English as I did with Resurrection F. But even if it happens, I'm not too sure that theatrical run will happen in the United States this year. So let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments. Are you looking forward to this Dragon Ball film coming up? What do you think about the fact that it's going to be a Dragon Ball Super film and will be taking place after the end of Dragon Ball Super? Let me know down below. And if you like this content, subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. And make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe, enable those damn notifications.